Spanish guy with a university education, living in London, you know, being the head of engineering. I have everything. I'm sitting here and all of you are listening. That is a massive amount of privilege.
Okay, so we're going to start with a nice, easy one, and I'm looking for a contribution from each of the panelists on this. So, what are your experiences with diversity in tech, and how does it impact the success of businesses, both from a people perspective, which is where we all go to when we talk about diversity, but also from a revenue profit perspective? Who are you first, Mark?
Thanks. While I've been at Innocent Drinks, we really invest a lot in diversity and inclusion, we realised that we need to get people from different backgrounds, different education levels and all things like that, because with these people come all different ideas. So when I joined Innocent, it was very traditional university leavers, but now we're bringing that back to school leavers as well, because sometimes when you get school leavers in, there's not that education background that they've gone through university, so they've got new ideas and different ways of thinking. And one of the some of the values within Innocent is really that entrepreneurship. We want people to come there with ideas, try things out, not be afraid to make mistakes, not be afraid of failures. But for us really, that really grows what we can do as a business, because we're just doing things different to everybody else.
Cool. So you've gone sort of straight in for cognitive diversity, really, right? You're looking for a different set of thinking, perhaps people who haven't been tuned in a way by a university course or whatever. Yeah. Paul, what about you? I've got a funny feeling that you might disagree with part of the statement about it should be about revenue and profit.
Yeah, from our perspective, or from my perspective, certainly, the way we try and approach it, and I try and approach it, is you build a team, you build the social aspects, you build what we like to call a family. It might sound corny, but that's how we approach it, that's how I approach it. You engage with people, you get to know people. I get my leaders, and I look for leaders who engage and really, it's not about the mission statement, it's about how do you engage with people and get people to understand the work they want to do, and then provide them with those opportunities. Because when you get a team that are fully engaged, because you really understand where they're coming from, and I've done the whole engineering spectrum, so I've been a tester, a developer, and so on. So I like to put myself in the shoes of people all the way through the spectrum of how we grow teams, and try and think, well, what would captivate them, what would interest them, and how do we build them up? And when you build a team, in my opinion and my experience, that really enjoys what they're doing, then the success, the revenue, and the profits always follow. But when you lead with the first thing, you kind of lose the people. And unless you build around the people, again, it might sound corny, but I come from a sporting and team background, and that's the principles that every good team is built around. You've got to get teams that are engaged and just hanging out together and working together. Not everybody has to be a technical rock star. You need different people to fill in different gaps, and you need people who are more, socially driven and will drive the team, as well as the technical rock stars who will carry the team on the technical front, but people who keep the team going. So I've worked in many different industries. Sorry if I'm talking too long.
Keep going.
So I've worked in many different industries, and banking is one of them, where I was never the top performer in investment banking, but my role in that banking team was I could hold my own with the guys, but I was one of the more social guys who would sew the team together and keep the morale going. And we were successful. UBS, Citigroup, we were really successful because we built a team where everybody had different functions. Everybody contributed to the group goals, but we built a team. Everything else follows after that, and that's just the way I approach it.
And that's great, Paul. I think a lot of people will resonate with that. But on the diversity aspect of that, do you design those teams to have particular aspects of diversity in them, or is it just something that happens?
It's diversity from a point of different inputs and different perspectives. It's it's not everybody has to be uniform. Like that's probably the bit I didn't articulate well, but everybody brings something to the group, but you don't need a group of, you know, exactly the same sort of rock stars. You just need a team who, you know, blend together well. Everybody knows their function, or brings something to the team, and everybody does their part in the team, if that makes sense.
Sure, okay. So Vicki, you know, we're talking about success of teams, right? And putting the right teams in place with a breadth of diversity amongst them, right? But we're not doing it for fun, are we? Right? We're doing it to drive the company forward, and either if that's a not-for-profit company, then their mission, or you're doing it as a profitable company to make money. So why does it matter? Is it a feel-good thing for us, or is it something that brings mission and purpose to our companies?
I mean, yes, I mean, we're all here to build products, to build businesses, whatever sector that's in. I think there's 2 points I'll cover here. One is that I think as an industry, we have to acknowledge that we are incredibly privileged as an industry. So it is the right thing to do to create an environment where anybody from any background, any protected characteristic can thrive in that industry, that these opportunities are afforded to a broad spectrum of people, which hasn't necessarily been true in the history of technology. So from a societal point of view, it is the right thing to do. I think in addition to that, you know, very few of us will build products that apply only to one subset of society. You know, we build products for the masses. And to understand the people that are using your products, it definitely helps to have diverse backgrounds in your team. I think it just makes complete sense as a business. And I think that the sort of point that was made about the culture and the environment is absolutely right, because you know, you will get a diverse team if you create an environment in which anybody's opinions can be heard, and you can get that diversity of thought into the way you work, into your product as well. So I think it comes on multiple different levels on that.
Yeah, I think that's really true. Certainly men and women and all people from all backgrounds drink wine, so we're doing okay. Victor, so you introduced yourself and you use your pronouns, right? Mm-hmm. And that was obviously something that was important to you, and I think a lot of our audience will be thinking diversity. Those kind of things are at the core of how we think about diversity. Just talk to us about how your company approaches diversity.
So yeah, so I introduce my I introduce my pronouns because it's a privilege thing. If you think about it, if you are like a classic presenting cis male presenting or a cis woman, everyone use she, her, right? But society is not all composed of us, and not everyone that you might perceive as a male, a female, something in between, doesn't matter, have the privilege of going out and say like, you know what, I don't identify as a female, I would use like they, them. And this is important because it's the small act of kindness to see clearly and loudly like, I see you, I acknowledge you, and I recognize your choices. So this is something that we really embed in the culture at Her. We are obviously a company that actually makes products for a subset of population because we are focused on the LGBTQ market, right? We are focused on LGBTQ women. So we need this diversity from the go. And that doesn't mean that everyone at Her is queer. We enrich the team from everyone. We want like cis, non-binary, trans, because the thing is like every experience of life, from your cultural background, from where you were born, it adds in the diversity of thinking. And you know, I'm very privileged. I can consider myself extremely privileged. I'm a white Spanish guy with a university education, living in London, you know, being the head of engineering. I have everything. I'm sitting here and all of you are listening. That is a massive amount of privilege. So the only way, or one of the ways I like to give back is being involved with the LGBT community, with my community. By that, you know, finding Her and joining them was like a tidal change in my life, because I get to actually being able to be in an industry where I say like, our team is 90% male in engineering. And I sit in front of the CEO, Robin, and I said, I'm going to scale this team, but this is absolutely wrong, and I'm not going to tolerate it. And she was like, cool, I want you to change it. And that is your mission driving it. So it's very fulfilling because it's not only like, hey, we are scaling, it's like, we are creating opportunities, we are enriching our product, we are giving safe spaces for people to find love, connections, friends, hookups. You know, everyone likes nice hookups from time to time. So, and there we are. We enrich our product like this diversity of thought, and not only like from the sexual point of view or the sexual identity, also from background, because we have people, as I mentioned, in Argentina, we have people in Czech Republic, in Canada, in the US, in England. So this is like something that is structural at her. Like we need to be diverse to be able to create that diverse and safe space, and doing it with the perspective of someone who has lived through it. This is like.
So guys and girls, and everybody else in between as well, right? I think that this is a subject which we all are faced with in our organisations and we all find challenging. And I don't know about you, but just listening to Victor talk about it so fluently and openly was really inspiring. Can we just give him a quick